Hello there everyone, this is I Am Mark III and welcome back to the final upgrade. A game where we sit here in a high orbit and point and laugh at the people down there on Earth. Oh silly humanity, how could you entrust movement across the stars to a psychopathic AI like me? Yeah, right. Welcome back to the final upgrade for second episode. And I did say last episode is going to be kind of a chill time, and it's I may or may not have been vibing to the music for the last 5 minutes before I thought, you know what, I better start actually saying things. Okay, enough of that. Let's just make sure this guy's got his logic going. Yep, he is. The thing is, he doesn't have anything to do right now, but we're about to give him things to do. So, let us begin by getting our construction ship out of here and back to Mars. There we go. Now, we do actually have a couple of comments from last episode. First one from Clint. Nice to see you, by the way. Clint's been watching the channel for a long time. Doesn't usually comment, though. It says, a great vid, keep it up. I shall do my best. Yes, I shall do my best. The other comment is from Happy Hafer. I have this game too. You know, I'm not surprised, actually. I mean, you seem to have a lot of similarities in the kind of games you tend to like versus what I like. So, sci-fi, production, factory, you know, there's a few checkboxes here. But never quite got the hang of it, at least not enough to actually finish a game. Been a year since I last tried, maybe it's better now. And I really shouldn't watch videos when tired. I misread the title as Leaving Earths Behind. Well, Happy Afer, as I'm sure Damadoc would say, the trick to leaving Earths behind is a question of exit velocity. And I'm going to stop right there, because I don't want to go any further than that. Yes. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? I must not channel the influence of the Damadoc. I must not. This is a chill time. Except I'm now ranting and raving. Ah! You know, just keep going. There we go. Massive expansion. So, is it better than it was a year ago? I would say yes. Definitely. Upgrades to the final upgrade. I realised what I was saying there right as I decided to say it. Have been slow but steady over the last few years, since you know, the whole world situation hit and all that jazz. But it has been steadily upgrading and updating. Stupid game title corrupting my words. Just go ahead and get stuff built. So, I'll be honest. The main things you need to get hang of in this game really is setting up your logistics lines. And that's trade routes, which is what we're going to be doing in this particular episode, actually, getting our first trade routes going. And beyond that, you just need some ships, and the ships need to be on auto logic like that NG carrier that I built last episode. This episode I'm going to build a trade ship and get that moving stuff around. But, well, this game, the tutorial does run you through the basics, but that's all you really need. Every product in the list requires 1 or 2 inputs and also has a production time in seconds. If it requires more than 1 input, it does actually tell you the ratio of inputs that it consumes in the actual production structure as well that does it. Then it requires energy supplied on the basic frame that it's on. So in this case it would be the station, since I'm working on the refinery section here. And then lastly, it needs a zone of some kind, which is where this button here, resource zones, comes into play, as you saw me setting up last time. So it's click resource zone, click add resource zone, select type, then it's click and drag. Or you can view and resize a zone after you've got it, because there's another button down here for that. As I said last time, the interface is a bit convoluted at times, and that is one of the main drawbacks of this game. I also mentioned last time, it's a 2.5D arrangement structures are 3 layers. 1 layer is the background, 2nd layer is the machine layer, and also where resource blocks flow around. 3rd layer is exterior walls, basically. And pneumo pipes can push things into an unoccupied space. They don't actually push out into space down here, worth noting. That's why these haven't been dumping my metal ingots into the void. But if this wall wasn't here on this direct push line from this pipe, then these blocks would be pushed straight out into the void and wasted. So that's something to keep in mind. I think from there, just trade routes. You automatically found a colony when you claim a sector, if that sector produces a resource. And then in the actual, in the actual thing here, we've got the resources on the left, and we've got the colony on the right. First one is always the production. There's only 1 production per location. Second is if that resource is ready to be upgraded, so it produces more quickly, and what it needs for that. In this case, 100 carbon. Right side, the colony is a bit more complicated, but in this case, it requires iron. Since I produce that locally, I've got this little setup here that I slammed in last time, as I mentioned, just dumps iron straight back to the planet. But because it's maxed out its population quota, it now demands fuel, which will let it expand to the next level, giving me precious memory space and raising the cap on this, as well as the consumption rate. An extra thing of note here, by the way, this green bar here, that ticks down for every in-game cycle that it's not gaining a resource. So as a resource deficit builds up, if that hits the bottom, which is usually like about 50 to 100 of the resource-ish, then the colony actually starts losing population because humans die off really quick for some reason. So yeah, you need to keep a steady supply, otherwise your population actually drops overall. And that applies at the top here, which is just a measure of progress, total population size. Beyond that, that's that. That's that. I am sorry, I'm somewhat choking. Yeah. Last thing, of course, during game setup, I left hints on, and so it says here, claim sector Saturn, because the game is recommending I do that. If there's a resource route that can be placed and I have trade ships active, which I don't, then that will actually pop up here as well after a while to tell you, hey, you could be moving this thing over here. Maybe you should do that. So hints is a good way to keep track, or make sure you're reminded if it looks like you might have forgotten. And with all that out of the way, I guess let's move on to the construction, as we let our massive stockpile of iron start going up. Thank you. Okay. Massive stockpile of iron. I will refill my construction ship, at least for now. And yes, by the way, transportation from multiple storage sites means massive transportation. Very quick restock. Ah, and there's the energy ship coming in. Hello, how are you? Doing your job? Excellent. Good boy, good boy, good boy, good boy. Right. I kind of skipped over this in the previous episode, but I'm going to actually run you through building another ship this time. I really did gloss over it last time because it's like almost half an hour. Whoops, about the end of the episode. Oh well. So, begin with ship core. The thing worth noting, by the way, is ships' grids can flip, jumping around. So, this can be inverted to be the other way around if needed. It's just like this for putting it down. Another thing of note is if your ship has weapons on it, then so long as those weapons exist, the actual ship core itself is indestructible in a combat situation. Let's go bulk hull mode 1, sure. So that's an interesting thing to note. Also of note is the actual engine block itself is also classed as indestructible as well, so long as that happens. So shots coming from behind the ship trying to go past this will be blocked. So that's something to keep in mind for an actual combat style ship. Though that said, ships like this, stations like this, absolutely pathetic in terms of defenses. They won't last long at all. Let's move on. So, in terms of building, you can use nearly anything in the game to do it. You can't use carbon. For some reason, you can't build a ship out of a flammable material. You can build a ship out of transparent material, in like glass. You can make your ship entirely out of pure gold if you want to. Though it is worth noting that all of this is locked behind tech, even iron, though as you saw, iron is super easy to get. But then you also get into the wonderful world of composites. And this is what affects ship resistance to damage, primarily. Though it's also worth noting that, in effect, there's 3 grades of 3 different combinations of resistance here. So this one is extra resistance versus kinetic and laser, a slight weakness to explosive. This one here has a weakness to explosive, but is better against kinetic and explosion types. And this is the other one, weak to kinetic, strong against explosions and lasers. And each tier increases it with a rare material, but it just tops up the resistance and reduces the incoming damage. And by the way, the 3 weapon systems are purely split among those 3 damage types. So railguns, kinetics, missiles do explosives, lasers are lasers. Yeah. Though also worth noting is the tier 0 stuff, the basic material ones, mostly have no resistances except for, oddly enough, glass and titanium. Glass has a resistance of 1 versus lasers. Somehow. You'd think it'd let lasers through more easily, but no, it apparently resists them. I'm guessing it scatters the beam or something. And titanium is actually better than any other tier 1 composite, because instead of a 1-0-1, it offers 1 across the board. But the trade-off is titanium is actually the hardest material to actually unlock, so that's probably why. But as soon as you get titanium, all the other tier 1 composites are basically defunct, except for the fact that colonies actually sometimes request them or demand them, either as a base material or as an upgrade material, so you need production of all of them regardless. Anyway, let's move on. I could build this ship using basic storage, right? Like you saw me do with that initial setup on the factory. I could do that. But what I actually want to do is make this a denser, more compact thing. First, to save on the block limit, so that we don't actually get, overwhelmed by the ship being too big or something like that. But also so that it's also because there are actually techs that can upgrade those more condensed storages. So if I build in tanks, you need that for liquid anyway, but the storage ones, there's techs that multiply how much they can store. So I'll build a decent sized craft now, and then I can get some really cheap techs a bit later on, and it'll just multiply how much these ships can move. Which I think is entirely fine. I think that would be absolutely grand. Let's see, I just need to make sure this is a smirch ship, of course. Gotta make sure of all that. And I think, let's put 4. By the way, this is a matter. This is a cargo ship. It is not intended to actually take damage. It's not intended to process stuff. I believe you can actually install stuff to process on ships as well. But this craft doesn't require that. It's a hauler, plain and simple. No more advanced functionality is required. So yeah, I think I've said what I need to do about this for now. So I'll just go ahead and continue installing stuff. So same basic rules. Level 1 background, level 2 machine level, level 3 wall segments, and of course that odd little rule where you can't put a hatch in unless you've got a level 2 wall segment already built in place. So there is that. But anyway, I'll see you in a few moments when I have a cargo ship ready to roll. Yes. Alright, I do believe I have a thingamajigger. Come on, flagship, let's get this thing built. So as you can see, I altered the design slightly from what I was initially laying down. So that's the thing. This thing's contemporary is actually a bit more confused than the engine transport is, if I bring up the blueprint view. So the engine transport is compared to the engine carrier T1, and ours has like 50% more energy capacity and onboard computation, so that kind of thing. Though the transport It's odd because the T2 transport uses the T1 storages, which we've incorporated into our initial version, as well as the T2 batteries and the T1 tanks. And then the T3 transport, I don't know. I think it uses the Tier 2 storages and the Tier 2 tanks and the Tier 2 batteries. So transports are a bit mixed, but the main thing about them though is a good thing to take away. They can haul solid and liquid cargoes. So that's always a good thing to try and remember. But if I look at this thing now, this thing has a capacity of 12,000 megawatts. But of course, onboard computation capacity is something I've built in. So this thing carries a considerable amount more, along with the option to upgrade the batteries to Tier 2s and Tier 3s later on. So, same kind of thing as the energy transport. This thing is more expensive up front, but carries a lot. This thing carries like 500 liquid or solid. Originally, I was actually building up to 1,000 by accident, but then I realised I was overdoing it, so I cut it back to only 500. As a comparison though, that Tier 1 that I was just showing you, that can haul 100 liquid or 50 solid. So 2.5 times more liquid, 5 times more solid in this design, plus computation, plus extra power storage, so it doesn't need to be resupplied as often. So this should serve us quite a while once it gets done. There we go. All done? All done. Got a decent charge. Can hold up to 30,000. So that's 3 and a bit times more. It's got a lot of storage. I kind of went with a more open plan in this, so less interior walls compared to the energy transport. But I'm still going to install hatches on it. Just on the vacuum edges at least. Just make it look like it's a craft that's kind of meant to be lived in a little bit. I don't know if hatches actually give you any kind of defense benefit at all. I don't think they do. In fact, they are actually slightly weaker than a full-fledged wall, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, finish building, please. Nice and easy. There we go. And that's all it needed. Okay, we have our first thing. So, save the new blueprint as the bulk hauler V1. We got the one for now, but Autologic, you are a transporter. Thing is though, we don't have anything set to transport, but we can do. And this is where the whole logistics chain thing comes in. So, if I was going to say map view, but if you press F, you can select a thing, and this is the trade route creator. Here you can directly select a given resource type and then start to create a trade link or see the trade overview of that particular material. But if we hit map mode, remember I mentioned earlier on the actual sector screen there's the colony outputs, upgrade requirements, colony demand, and then colony actual physical upgrade for that. Same deal here. There's the output, there's the output upgrade, there's the colony need, and there's the colony upgrade. So same kind of thing. You can just click on these to start making trade routes of the required type. So I'm going to say this one requires that. I've now got ingot selected, and as you can see, we've got some more stuff popping up. So blue is purely a demand. That's colony related entirely, because all of your stations can go trading to and fro, so they are green like this. Green is a station. Right now, the station has 400 out of a potential 400 in storage, and this is 0 out of required 100 in demand. So, select my start point, drag it, let go, and then you can suddenly see that went down, and that shot up because the transport just grabbed it and went. So that'll keep going with that, and a few more things to note. By default, it creates a priority 4 batch 50, which means if the demand can take 50 or more of a resource, a transport will be sourced to go and grab it and take it over. Priority is if there's several calls on a transport's time, the higher priority routes get done first. That's all that is. But if you click halfway along a transport line, you can click and hold to drag it to make it slightly easier to see what's going on if you've got too many things on top of each other. But if you click it, you get direct control over it. Resource type, priority, batch size. Default batch size can be changed to as well. You can reset it to default from all routes. You can even delete the route if you want to, that kind of thing. But if I tell it to go to, well, this is a high priority line. I want this to be maintained because it's maintaining the colony. So I'll tell it priority 6, and then I hit confirm, and that updates it. So that's a high priority transport route now between my iron place and that colony there. As you can see, it is loading from the storages, and then it'll just warp off and do that. Goodbye, transport. Boom. And then it's here, and then because it's going down to the planet itself rather than unloading at the station, it warps again, which takes it down, then it comes back from the surface of the planet. Miners, by the way, do the same thing. They can drop down to a colony and extract directly from the resource stored on the planet itself, and then bring it back up and feed it to your factories and things like that. So that's what a miner does. Incidentally, by the way, miners were the original thing. These transport hubs here, the trade hubs that can extract up to the orbiting station automatically, those are a more recent inclusion in the game. But now, as you can see, population going up, iron ingots, just fine. There's no shortage or anything. So let's do the next thing, which is another one. So this has a supply station and a demand on the same place. So as you can see, it's doubled it up. And in this case, because it's an upgrade request, the trade route will last as long as the upgrade request is there, and then once the upgrade is fulfilled, it will automatically disappear, so the trade route will be gone. Like that. So this thing will load carbon and go and do all the shiny things. There's the bulk hauler, down there. Pop. That's upgraded. And we can now get our next upgrade requirement, which is copper ingots. We don't have that yet. But this place is the same. Carbon, it goes down there. Copper ingots. So, hey, there we go. When we get copper, we can upgrade these outputs once again, as you do. But that transport will now go anywhere there's a trade route in need. In the meantime, though, we have construction work to do. So let's refill our thing and go and actually get fuel sorted out, because the game is yelling at us for not having things. It wants us to build a construction ship, which would be very helpful, by the way. And it wants us to claim Saturn, because Saturn is part of our locked starting zone, and it's our locked, guaranteed planet that has oil on it. So let's go ahead and do that. Ding! Claim the sector. Requires plastic plates, produces oil, requires copper to upgrade it. So this is another one where it produces locally. Also worth noting, by the way, the connections here, outside this initial 6 ring around your starting system, that is where the RNG is. I mentioned that last time, I think. So sometimes you'll connect to your first AI faction right here. Sometimes this connection won't be here and you'll connect somewhere up north. But this is an example of one of the AI factions. They have a claimed territory, they have a station processing stuff here. In this case, it is ferrotine plate being produced out of titanium ingots. This is all glass, by the way, that's why the stuff isn't falling. And we have an example of a combat ship. This one is made out of iron copper composites. It's weak against explosives, but has a slight resistance to lasers and kinetics. And their ship is armed with kinetics. As you see, like a forward hammerhead design. And then the stuff. By the way, ammo storage is explosive, just so you know. So positioning your ship when you're attacking something, very useful. I'll probably mention that again when I actually start fighting these guys. But yeah, these guys are the green faction. We used to be able to trade with the factions, I don't think we can anymore. Anyway, we must get on with the thing. We must do the thing. We want to get the initial station module. Build. That here. And this requires a slightly more complex station to get sorted out. I say slightly more complex, that's because this station is our first one dealing with fluids. So same deal with it in this case. It's extracted locally, so it's a trade hub. You're going to be pulling out oil. But now we've got to use pipes. Pipes are same level as pneumotubes, except the way a pipe works is you set what fluid the pipe will take by having a tank connected to it and setting the tank to a certain fluid type. And then the pipes cannot mesh together. You can use a tube joint though to force them to cross each other, so that tube joint is actually like a universal crossing point for pneumotubes and pipes both. So that's how you mix them up. But another thing is, remember pneumotubes can move 2 items per second. Pipes don't have a flow limit. They flow as fast as machinery can pull through them. So that's also something worth keeping in mind. But let's go ahead and start slapping something down. So, since we don't need multiple pneumotubes, let's just get one. And let's put down some tanks here. I want to make sure there's a big buffer here because oil is kind of one of the more limiting resources sometimes. So ideally this station will have some extra capacity to be able to import oil from another oil colony if we are lucky enough to get one. But I'll set this one to just oil. Copy to all because that's all there is at the moment. Okay. So that's our initial oil dump storage. Next up I will drag out the top. And that's because I've got multiple things I wanted to do with this oil. First one is I want to refine it for fuel. The tutorial tells you to use this as a power source, same as with the carbon. I just find it more reliable to go with the carbon purely with carbon ingot. That way I can actually save all my fuel production for like plastic plates and actual places that require fuel and stuff like that. Because I find oil a lot more limiting than carbon, if I'm going to be honest. There we go. And I'll tell you, you can make fuel. Copy selected tanks, drag them over. There we go. So this setup will take oil there, refine it on all these into fuel up there. And it will be fed by the carbon station for power. All well and good. But now we start to do something slightly different, which is we start to produce something. So let us begin. We need a machine called a fabricator, which is actually a 5x5 device. Kind of bulky. 3, 4, 5. Actually, I'll do the same because 2 of these will output 2 per second. So 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I'm just doing for appearance sake. I'm spreading things out a little bit. Fabricator. You will make plastic plates. So that's plastic plate production going right there. And then I'm going to do something slightly different here, which is I'm actually going to plug these guys into a storage. Like that. And to condense it, as I said, a storage right there. These have to be configured, by the way, in a station. An auto-logic ship automatically adjusts as required, but a station doesn't. You need to manually set these things, just like with storage zones. So this one is going to be taking plastic plates, like that, and you're going to be dealing with that. And then that can be used to pick up as a pickup point for plastic going out system. I'm not going to use that for this one though. For this one, if you remember, I want to produce locally the stuff that I'm going to use here. So I'm going to tell it to give me a couple more tanks here, which I'm going to tell it for oil. Like that. And by the way, if you don't include a tank and set it to a type, the pipes don't actually configure, because you can't configure the pipes directly. So it has to have a tank connected or it just won't work. Like that. Again, an extra couple of fabricators, because as this colony upgrades we require more. Then the output is on the pneumotube side, like so, into a trade hub, which will go down to the planet, like that. And then, if we want to, we can neaten this up quite a bit. Oh look, colony requires fuel to upgrade. Isn't that convenient, considering we're literally just doing that? But yeah. We can go ahead and upgrade this, just build it out like this to help out with compartmentalizing the station and all that jazz. But it's not necessarily required, and there's also the fact that like pipes and pneumotubes actually cut through walls. So it's not, you can't make it absolutely perfect, really, not if you've got separate rooms going on. You can do a good job with it though. Like that. There we go. Now we just need some routes through for the bots to use. So make sure bots can get everywhere they need to go to. Let's go and access up the top there, one down the bottom here. There's of course this massive open space here, but that's okay. Of course that takes extra blocks, it means I have to build it all, but oh well. Such is the price of it making it look a little bit prettier, right? As soon as we get the machines in place, this thing will start firing up. And we'll start to see that this colony improving as well. Oh, now there's something that happens sometimes. The copy oil doesn't always work for the tanks. So as you can see, that one's full of oil. These aren't set, so it's actually refusing connection. And there we go. Liquid, by the way, also affected by gravity. It fills up lower tanks first for some reason. Don't know why. But it's being pulled out the top there into those. These guys need to be set to plastic plates as well. Plastic plates are required for a bunch of other products, so it's that's why I say oil is a bit more limited than carbon. Then that starts there. One last trick I'll show this episode, because we are past half hour, is if you're using storage like this, then something I've decided I like to do is put this and then another storage next to it, copy that, and then add tubes down. So connect this top one into the machines, and then it dumps downwards into the next one and increases your storage space. So it also fills up by a total of 3 tubes, so that's like 6 per second it cycles down. But this is spending 3, 6, 9, 12 tiles to get an increase in storage of 25 before upgrades. Every upgrade increases that up by a further 25, so you know. This just is a nice, quick, easy way to try and increase storage using this level of storage. Because I can also just do it like, oh look, I want to increase storage capacity to 100. There you go. Easy peasy. And of course there's the fuel, there's things. So let's do the last thing, which is fuel. So hotkey F, I want to move fuel. There's the supply, there's the demand, there's the demand. These are colony demands, by the way, so once met, they will upgrade the total thing. And then we just have to wait for a ship to accept it. There it is. Filling up 4 tanks. By the way, there are researches that can increase the transfer rate for solids and liquids as well, so that's one of the tech upgrades you can do. Then it jumped down to here. And 0.25 per second. Colony upgrade. Plus 16,000 memory. More storage. Still at 0.25 per second. Though that does climb quick, I must admit. One thing you can see though is if there's a station, there's a marker at the top of this thing. And then the glowing blips are your ships. And as you saw there, you just saw a ship move. The game has a cycle, like a steady pattern of cycles. And that's how often it tries to execute commands on all your ships and things. And that was just the ship just moving there. And it means that all your ships tend to move in waves, like a ripple effect kind of thing going on. It's actually quite nice. But that said, we've only got one monstrous transport at the moment. It's not like we need much else. Anyway, let's move on. Last thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and claim our last starting guaranteed colony, which is Jupiter. There you go. And this one grants 8,000 memory straight away because default colony. This one requires iron shells, so that's ammunition for kinetic railguns. And this is used by the tutorials to teach us how to make a secondary product. So iron shells, we need to manufacture that out of, I believe it's the ingots. Let me just check that in recipe mode, which is Y. Iron shell, yep. If it's in production for material, it uses the ingots. So iron ingot fabricates to iron shells, which in turn can be used with nickel ingots to produce the next tier, which is steel shells. Which, as you can see, does a bit more damage and is a bit more accurate compared to the iron shells. So that's something to note. The actual performance of weapon system depends on the tier of ammunition you feed to it. But yeah, this place requires that. I'll just explore this asteroid, which is a place you can send a mining ship, which is a ship equipped with these construction bots, by the way, and a cargo hold to gather material. In this case, it's a source of copper. It's just I don't have the tech to actually get copper. But that has also revealed white hexagon, so I know what's there. It's revealed a bit more space. But beyond this, we are moving outside of our starting system. And this is where we get our message saying, hey, welcome to the Void, fair traveller. Please, be nice, don't scrape the paint. A newcomer, we greet you. Find us between 2 suns. Send unknown. So, some unknown AI construct or something has reached out to us here, I'm guessing, because it says system message. It wouldn't be a system message from Earth because they ignore us, basically. So, yeah. But that's revealed 2 sectors. We've got a world producing water. There's always one of those somewhere nearby. This is an empty sector, but if I want to claim ownership of this one next to it, which is a 1 star, so that's a guaranteed resource, I think. No, wait, no. Wait. Oh yeah, stars don't guarantee the resource, it's just... it multiplies the cost of the thing, so it's like a prestige kind of thing. More stars, more expensive, more energy to claim it. But I need to claim this sector and one of these 2 sectors to get to actually claim this sector over here. So that depends on what's beyond it, but we won't explore any further for now. We are massively overrunning on the time. Let's go back to Jupiter. Bop. And if we look, nickel is the resource it gives us. And this time around it requires plastic plates to upgrade. Hey, plastic plates. We have those. Let's go ahead and tell it to ship some out. I mean, might as well. These upgrades don't cost us anything once we've paid the upgrade costs, so it's a thing you might as well do whenever you can. And that's why it reminds you so insistently up here that you need to do that. But with that said, it is also time to end it there, so Yep, I did grab iron shells. I thought I had. All I need to do is actually start producing them. Hello, Hauler. How are you? Doing your own thing? Good, good, good. Oh, I see. It's because I'm low on oil. And that's because I don't have copper. So yeah, the cycle of upgrades. The factory must grow. Somewhere requires fuel. Oh, that I can do. Yep, just deploy some fuel over there. But as you can see, just in maintaining this colony, this oil supply is already massively overstretched anyway. Using this for energy, just overkill. It would just deplete so hard. I don't have enough oil as it is. I need hundreds more. But until next time, this has been like 45 minutes. This is Brian Mark 3. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying the show, and I'll catch you all some other time. A bit more final upgrades, or another video, another thingy, whatever may be your viewing pleasure. I'll see you all later.